Hey everyone, today I'm going to be testing out brand new makeup, but with a little bit of a twist. I'm actually going to compare the new products as I try them to older things that I already have in my collection to find out, did I really need to buy this or did I already have something similar? And hopefully that'll be helpful for you guys. I know when all of these new things are coming out, it can be so hard to avoid FOMO. And this is definitely not a dupes video. It's more just supposed to show you what similar things you might already have that would make purchasing the new products not really necessary. So if that sounds good, be sure to stick around. And if you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like honest makeup reviews. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and start out with bronzer. I have 4 new liquid bronzers to share with you. I feel like this is sort of the trend right now to have the liquid formulas, and I'm so curious how these compare to things that I already have in my collection. So we're just gonna go ahead and play with these, and as we go, I'll try to think of things that they remind me of. So the first one is the Makeup by Mario, and this is called the Soft Sculpt Bronzing and Shaping Serum. I got it in the shade Fair, and this is $36, but they're giving you 1 fluid ounce, which is actually pretty large for a liquid bronzer. So you're getting a ton of product in here. Plus, I love the packaging because you can use it 2 ways. You can take off the top cap and pump it out onto your hand this way. So this is useful if you're going to be mixing this in with your foundation or just putting it all over your face as a base product. And another way that you can use it is the top comes off and there's a doe foot applicator inside. So this is if you just want to dot it on areas of your face, if you're contouring or sculpting, then you can just apply it to select areas. So this is actually what the color Fair looks like. I'm just going to blend out the swatch. I think this is beautiful. I think it's really gonna go well with my skin tone. It's not a super cool toned grayish shade like a contour, but it's also not a warm orangey bronzer. It actually kind of seems to be closer to a neutral brown, which I think is beautiful. And also the texture of this seems to be very light and very sheer and more of a buildable product. So I'm gonna put this one on this side of my face, and I think I'm gonna use it the way that I saw Mario doing it in a video. Basically, he just put a few dots on the cheekbone and then a few dots on the forehead and then blended it out with a brush. So I'm gonna use the Sigma soft angled cheek brush and I'm just gonna start working this in. Oh yeah, it's just completely melting into my skin really effortlessly. I think for those of you who might be a little bit nervous about using a liquid bronzer, there really doesn't seem to be much of a learning curve to this. Like I said, it's so sheer and the color does show up. It is giving me a little bit of a bronzy glow, but it's not super obvious looking. So it just looks really, really natural and I'm loving this so far. This weightless texture is seeming to just dry right down, but it gives you a little bit of time to blend it out. It doesn't look patchy and it doesn't seem to be moving my foundation underneath as well. So I think this looks really gorgeous. If I had to compare the Mario to something in my collection, I think it's pretty close to the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Liquid Bronzer. This one is also a thin serum-like formula. Unfortunately though, it only comes in 1 color. The Mario comes in 7 shades, so I think you're much more likely to find a match. In the Mario, we all know that Physicians Formula's shade range is usually terrible, but I just want to quickly show you a comparison swatch. Another difference between these is that the Physicians Formula has a scent as well. So this is that one down here. It smells like coconut. And then we have the Makeup by Mario. So I think the Physicians Formula one is a little bit warmer in tone, but it does have that same serum-like texture that's just really sheer and it's super easy to blend into your skin. So if you're looking for a drugstore alternative and this color would suit you, then I think this could be a good option to try. Another liquid bronzer that I think the Makeup by Mario reminds me of somewhat is the Glossier Cloud Paint Bronzer. This is another huge favorite of mine, but keep in mind, this is a much tinier tube. You're getting a ton of product in the Mario one. So the Glossier, I think is probably not a better deal. Even though it's cheaper, you're getting 0.33 ounces in here. So it's a third of the size and it's $22. So you multiply that by 3, that's like $66 an ounce. And the Makeup by Mario is $36 for an ounce. So I think this is still a better deal, even though you have to pay more upfront up front, unless of course you feel like you're never gonna go through this or you don't use bronzer all that often and you just want something smaller, then I guess the Glossier might make sense. I have it in the shade Sail, and this color, I think, from memory at least, I'm gonna swatch it, I think it's similar to the fair shade in Mario, but I also think the Glossier is a little bit more pigmented, so it doesn't go on quite as sheer as the Makeup by Mario. So yeah, here's the Glossier in the shade Sail on the top and Makeup by Mario Fair underneath. So these are very, very close, but as you can see, the Makeup by Mario is just a lot more sheer, and the Glossier is going to give you more of that color payoff. But honestly, I love the Glossier. I've talked about it on my channel quite a bit, and I think it's one of the most seamless liquid bronzers. It's honestly my favorite that I have in my collection. I'm gonna have to try the Makeup by Mario one a little bit more and see how I feel about it compared to the Glossier, but the Glossier formula does have that very seamless blend, just like this one did, but it gives you a little bit more of that bronze color. So it's just not quite as subtle as this one is. So the next bronzer that I got is from Say. This one is $25 for 0.4 ounces. So again, it's a lot smaller than the Makeup by Mario. It's less than half the size and it's only $9 cheaper. So this is definitely not as good of a deal. And I got mine in the shade Salt, which looked a little bit more cool toned online. So let me just show that to you really quickly. So right away you can see it's a lot deeper than the Makeup by Mario, and it also is quite a bit more pigmented. So I'm gonna put this one on the other side of my face, and that way we can compare the two. So just like with the other one, I'm gonna put 2 dots and just a couple dots on my forehead. I quickly cleaned off my Sigma brush, so I'm gonna just use the same one to kind of keep it fair, and that way we can do an accurate comparison. This one is definitely a lot thicker. It's a little bit trickier to blend out, and I'm not sure if it's just me, but I feel like it looks slightly patchy. It's maybe lifting my foundation a little bit. I would say this one is definitely not quite as foolproof as the Mario. I would start slow with just tiny dots like I did and then build it up if you need to. But at least looking in the mirror, I feel like this side of my face doesn't look quite as natural as this side over here. I just think this one blends a lot more smoothly and it adds that little bit of a glow, but it doesn't really look like you're wearing makeup. This one, I can see the makeup actually sitting on my skin in the mirror. So I don't think the Say one is bad necessarily. I just prefer this one. Just my makeup preferences, I tend to go for a little bit more of a natural look. So if I had to compare the Say to something that I already have, I would say it's pretty close to the Face Sculpt Liquid Contour from Moira. These are really similar. Let me just swatch them, and I have the Moira in the shade 100 Fair Light. I think the biggest difference as I'm swatching them is that the Moira is a thinner formula, and the Say, it just has this like creamy, much thicker feel, which is similar to their blushes. But I think when it comes to the blush, you're putting it on a much smaller area of the face. You're just putting like a little dot right here and blending, whereas a bronzer, especially a liquid bronzer, is gonna have to go much further. So I don't know that this thicker blush formula necessarily works as well for bronzer. So let me just show you the swatches. Up here we have Say in the shade Salt, and underneath is the Moira in Fair Light. So let me just show you. The Moira one is just a lot thinner. I mean, it's still really pigmented, but it blends out kind of effortlessly. And then you have the Say one, which, like I said, it's thick and creamy and it starts to dry almost immediately. And I think that's part of why I was getting a little bit of a patchy effect. So having used the Moira one for a while now, I do prefer it to the Say. I know I've only used that one time, but so far, just right off the bat, I like the thinner formula of the Moira. I just think it's easier to work with. So moving on, I got another liquid bronzer. This one's from Cali Ray, and this is called the Sun Drip Skin Boosting Peptide Serum Bronzer. So this one is $28 for 1 ounce. So it's the same size as the Mario. It's a couple bucks cheaper, but it does only come in this one shade. So you're pretty limited as far as this goes. And just looking at it in the bottle right away, I know this is gonna be super warm toned, and I don't know that it's necessarily gonna be the right color for me, but I just wanna swatch it quickly for you guys. So It has, again, a pretty thin serum texture, almost like a gel, and it is definitely a warmer tone color. It does say that it has Matrixyl 3000 in the formula, which is a peptide that helps to firm your skin, so it's a little bit more like a skincare bronzer hybrid. And I just went ahead and removed the other bronzers, so I'm gonna go ahead and apply this one to this side of my face. I'm just gonna put a couple dots here and a couple dots up here. I'm loving how thin this is. This is kind of texture-wise reminding me of the Mario one also, except the color's a lot warmer and it also seems to have maybe like a little bit of luminosity in the formula. But just blending this out, it's also very easy to work with. I think it's another formula that's going to be kind of foolproof because it's not overly pigmented. It has that sheer quality to it. In that way, it also reminds me a little bit of some of the bronzing drops that we've been seeing lately, where they're just a little bit more sheer and something that you could even mix in with your foundation or put all over your face rather than using it to sculpt. So despite this one looking super orangey in a swatch, I think on my face, because it's so sheer, it just gave that really pretty bronzy glow, but it doesn't look overly orange. And I actually like the way that it looks more than I thought I was going to. If I had to compare it to something, I think the L'Oreal Lumi Glotion from the drugstore is pretty similar. This is in the shade Deep Glow, and I picked this one out of my collection because I think the Cali Ray has a little bit of luminosity as well, and the L'Oreal one does too. Plus, the L'Oreal has that thin gel-like formula. So as I was blending the Cali Ray on my face, it just reminded me of the Lumi Glotion, which I also really like. And even though that one too is a little bit warmer than something like the Makeup by Mario, I think because it's sheer, it just ends up giving my skin that beachy warmth, but it's not adding too much of the actual color. So I think that's why it doesn't end up turning me like an Oompa Loompa. So yeah, this is actually really beautiful. If I look like on this side of the face versus this side, I think this one just has that kind of back from vacation sort of vibe, and it gives that little bit of a glowy sheen, which is so beautiful. I still think I prefer the Makeup by Mario in total. Like if I was gonna wear something every day, I would probably reach for this one, but I do like this one more than the Say. I think it was easier to blend out. It looks more natural, and like I said, it just gives vacation vibes. So I think this is really nice. And then the last bronzer is actually from CoverGirl. I found this on Amazon, and this is their True Blend Skin Enhancer Jelly Bronze Glow. So I believe this only came in this one shade as well, which is disappointing. It's not gonna work for everybody. I would say probably light to medium skin tones, and that's about it. And this is also supposed to have a little bit of luminosity to it. And it's supposed to be a jelly texture with squalane. So this also is looking really sheer, and I would say it's as thin as the Makeup by Mario one, yet it has a little tiny bit more of that gel-like texture, where the Mario one feels a little more like a serum. So they're close, but I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same, and this shade is also a bit warmer than that one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take from my swatch and apply a little of this to this side of my face. I think as I'm blending, this one is reminding me of the Makeup by Mario the most out of all of them. I basically just tapped my brush a couple of times and it was blended. Like, it's so effortless. And again, it's just giving that luminosity, the beachy vibe, kind of similar to the Cali Ray, but I like the color of this one a little bit more. I think it's not quite as warm, but I also think it's a little more sheer than the Cali Ray. This one just showed up slightly more easily, so I think I would have to build up the CoverGirl to get the same level that I have over here, but this is actually a gorgeous product. So I wanna just quickly, again, for comparison's sake, let's swatch all three together. All right, so here we have Makeup by Mario in Fair, then we have the CoverGirl one, which just comes in the one shade, and the Cali Ray, which also just comes in the one shade. So the CoverGirl, I think, is going to be best suited for, I would say, fair to possibly medium skin tones. I wouldn't go much deeper than that. The Cali Ray, you're getting slightly more depth in it. And Makeup by Mario comes in 7 shades, so you can definitely pick the one that's right for you. It's also the coolest undertone of the 3. So again, if I had to pick my favorite, I do love the Makeup by Mario, but I would be super happy with the Cali Ray or the CoverGirl. I think both of them gave me that beautiful beachy vibe without the patchiness that I had with the Say. So I would say that this is my least favorite, but circling back around to, did I actually need to buy any of these new products? So we know the Makeup by Mario is my favorite out of the new things that I tried today, but do I like it more than the Butter Glow from Physicians Formula? I would say yes, because it doesn't have the fragrance that this has. I also like the color more, and I like that you have more color options to choose from. I like the thin texture of this, but I also think the Mario blends slightly more easily. So I'm not saying that this is a bad product by any means. I do love the Butter Glow bronzer, but I think I prefer this one. And if I had to compare it to the Glossier, this is a tough call because I love the Glossier. I think it is so seamless. It's just a little more pigmented. So I think these two can exist in a collection together. I don't think one really replaces the other, because if I want more bronze, I would use this one. If I just want something super subtle, then I would use this one. So I think it really just depends. And also another, I think, big difference between them is that the Glossier dries down to a matte finish. It doesn't have any shimmer in it. This one does have a tiny little bit of luminosity as well. So I think they're just different products that have a similar texture and color, but I think I would use them in different ways. And then as far as the Saie versus the Moira, I do think I probably should have saved my money and skipped this one because I'm not a huge fan of the formula. Just trying it first impression wise, I felt like it was patchy and it's thick and it's a little harder to blend. It dries really fast. So I like the more fluid texture of the Moira, and I think this one's just a little easier to work with. It's also cheaper. So I think the Saie is definitely more of a regret. As far as the Cali Ray versus the Lumi Glotion, I think these are kind of on par with each other. I don't think I needed to purchase this one necessarily, but if you are wanting a liquid bronzer that has skincare in it, it has hyaluronic acid, coenzyme Q10, and the Matrixyl 3000, I guess, but I get all of that stuff in my skincare anyway, so I feel like my makeup doesn't really need to have skincare. It's not really a big deal for me, so I could probably just continue to use the L'Oreal Glotion and have a similar result to this one, so I feel like I didn't necessarily need to buy this. And then when it comes to the CoverGirl, I think this would be a great option for those of you who do not want to spend the $35 on the Makeup by Mario. If you just want something very similar but less expensive, it could definitely be a good option. It has that super thin texture that just blended out like nothing, and it also has that slight bit of luminosity, but it's not shimmer or glitter. So I think these are very close. It's just, will this color work for you? It's not going to work for everybody. At least with this one, you are getting a bigger shade range, and I think that's pretty indicative of high-end makeup in general. You're always going to find probably an easier shade match than you will at the drugstore because they are usually so limited. So I don't know. Now that I have the Makeup by Mario, I probably didn't need to spend the money and buy this one, but I'm glad that I got a chance to test it out, and I will definitely use it. So those are my thoughts on the bronzers. Let's get into blush because we actually have quite a few of those to go through as well. First up, let's talk about these new Haus Labs blush sticks. So these, their official name is the Color Fuse Longwear Hydrating Glassy Lip and Cheek Blush Balm Stick. I had to look at the Sephora website because I was never going to remember that. So these are $34 each. They come in 8 shades and you're getting 0.18 ounces. So I ended up getting 3 colors. I don't believe they actually officially launch until the 30th, but they had them on an app exclusive on the 20th. So that's when I ended up getting them. So just looking at the packaging, I think it's really pretty. They come in these silver tubes and you have the color in the middle here, which is great because you don't have to look on the bottom to see which shade you're grabbing. I think that's really cool. Then they have the logo on the top. So when you open them up, they have a rounded applicator. So again, they say that you can use these on both lips and cheeks, which is nice. I'm just gonna go ahead and swatch these and then I'm gonna try them on as well. So far as I'm applying them, they seem like they're a very dewy formula. They're also very pigmented. And I'm so curious because they say that they're a longwear formula, but usually things that are dewy tend to kind of slip and slide off your face a little bit more. So I'm curious as to the lasting power of these. Okay, so as far as the swatches, I have Glassy Lilac on the top, then I have Glassy Pomelo, which is a really pretty peachy shade, and then this one is Glassy Hibiscus, which is like a dusty rose. All 3 colors look so beautiful, and I'm going to be applying these with my BK Beauty 112 angled brush. I'm going to start with Glassy Lilac, and I want to put these on my lips and my cheeks. So lips first. Wow, like these are really pigmented in one swipe. I definitely wasn't expecting that. They're also very thin, super lightweight, and they have a little bit of like a gel texture. So I'm just gonna pick up a little bit on the brush and just start stamping it right onto my cheek. So did I mention this is Glassy Lilac? These definitely add somewhat of a sheen just because they are a little bit dewy, but they're also sinking into my skin pretty quickly. It's not a cream to powder formula necessarily, but I do get the feeling that it's gonna dry down eventually because it's not like an overly sticky product. All right, so there we have Glassy Lilac on both lips and cheeks. Next, let's try Glassy Pomelo. So this is that really pretty peach. Again, feels very silky on my lips. I'm just gonna try this one directly from the tube. That's the way that they show it being applied on the website, but I usually like to pick things up from my brush first. I find that that usually gives a little bit of a smoother result, but I wanna see how these work in different ways. So this is really gorgeous too. I love the warm peachy color. It's very summery. I'm just gonna add a tiny little bit more. All right, so this is Glassy Pomelo on lips and cheeks. I'm just gonna quickly remove this one so we can try Glassy Hibiscus. And I'm gonna put the Fenty Soft Lit Foundation back on. That's what I was wearing today. And this is in the shade 150. All right, so here we have Glassy Hibiscus. This is that beautiful dusty rose. This is so pretty. This is the deepest color that I bought, but I think it might be my favorite on my lips. It's just that beautiful Your Lips But Better kind of color. And I actually want to try to apply this one with my fingers and see how that goes. I think I like the brush application a little bit more. I think it just helps to push it into my skin. It seemed like it was just sitting on top when I applied it with my fingers, and it was a little bit too sticky and dewy. So I'm just gonna kind of blend this back in with the brush a little bit more. All right, so here's Glassy Hibiscus on lips and cheeks. So first impression wise, I think these are super beautiful. Are they unique? Not necessarily. Let me just grab a couple things from my collection that these are reminding me of. All right, so I have a couple of things that I feel like are really similar to the Haus Labs. Now, I haven't worn them all day yet, so I can't compare them as far as longevity goes, but definitely as far as applying them, they remind me of a couple of things. The first one is the Pixi On The Glow blush. If you've tried these from Target, then you probably have a good idea of what the Haus Labs ones feel like. So these sticks come in quite a few different colors. I think they even have a pH adjusting one, and they have this same kind of jelly-like texture. So I just want to quickly do a comparison. This is the only shade that I have at the moment, which is Ruby, and I don't have a comparison color in the Haus Labs, but I'm just gonna put the Hibiscus one next to it, and hopefully you guys can see the similarity in texture. So right here we have the Haus Labs, here is the Pixi. So you can see that both of them have like this really dewy kind of a finish. I'm just gonna blend this out a little bit to show you. So the Pixi ones also, I find them to be really long lasting, and the texture just feels almost exactly the same to me. There's just a ton of similarity here, and the Pixi can also be used on both your lips and your cheeks. Also, you are getting a ton more product in the Pixi. These are 0.6 ounces, and the Haus Labs are 0.18, and these are 18, these are 34. So you're getting a little bit more than triple the amount of product in the Pixi for a lot less money. So this is just one comparison that I have. The second one that reminds me so much of the Haus Labs are these new Kaja Dewy Bars. So these also just came out recently. They have 0.35 ounces of product, so almost double what's in the Haus Labs, but these are 25, these are 34. So again, they're a much better deal. You can also use these on your lips and cheeks. Just for comparison, I want to show you the shade Fig Smoothie in the Kaja versus Glassy Hibiscus in Haus Labs. So the Kaja ones, kind of similar to the Pixi, come in these almost like flat style tubes. They almost look like a little deodorant, and they twist up from the bottom like this. You can twist them down if you go a little too far. It is worth noting that these have a little bit of fragrance in them. They have a fruity scent, but I'm just gonna swatch the Fig Smoothie next to the Glassy Hibiscus because I feel like they're a pretty similar color. They're not exactly the same, but they're close. All right, so this is the Kaja up here, and then this one is Haus Labs. The Kaja ones also have a dewy feel when you first put them on, but I find that they do dry down eventually, kind of similar to the Haus Labs. I mean, they seem like a very similar product, and maybe this is just something that's becoming trendy now, so we're going to be seeing it a lot more. But I would say these sheer out about the same amount, and they just leave that little bit of a dewy glow on your skin. And I've been using the Kaja ones for a while now. These are K-Beauty brand, and I love K-Beauty. I feel like they're kind of the trendsetters when it comes to makeup and skincare, and then all of the US brands tend to follow later. So I definitely think we're going to be seeing more of these, especially heading into the summer. But there are also some that have been out forever, like the Pixie one. It's been out for years and years, and I feel like this formula is only just becoming a little bit more popular. They also have bronzers that are in this formula too. So then I have another comparison. That's the Flower Beauty Gel Crush Lip and Cheek Sticks. These also are very close to the Haus Labs. I have two shades. I have Strawberry Crush and Blackberry Crush. So let me show you Strawberry Crush next to the Glassy Pomelo shade. I think these are kind of similar. And these Flower Beauty sticks are also very similar to the Pixie. I always kind of thought that they were a similar type of product for sure. And as I'm swatching them, I do think the Haus Labs is a little bit more pigmented than the Flower Beauty. And I think the Flower are more sheer than the Pixie or the Kaja ones. Pigmentation wise, I thought those were all kind of more similar to the Haus Labs. So the Flower Beauty is a little different from all of them in that it is more sheer. So this is Strawberry Crush down here, and this is Glassy Pomelo from Haus Labs. So you can see there is a bit of a difference as far as the pigmentation, but I think as far as the way that they feel, Flower has the same dewy texture, and it feels incredibly similar when you're blending it out on your skin. So that's another product that I just think comes really, really close. And then I also just quickly want to compare the Persona Multi-Sticks to the Haus Labs, because these also can be used on lips and cheeks. I have the Bubble one. I actually have all the colors, but I want to compare Bubble to the Glassy Lilac shade and see how close those are. This is another product that has that really dewy kind of texture. I feel like so many blush sticks tend to have that really matte dry down, and these are all more of a glossy type of texture. So just swatching them together, I think the Haus Labs one is a little bit more pigmented. It's also a slightly deeper color, so I think that could be throwing me off. But this is Glassy Lilac from Haus Labs. This is the Bubble from Persona. So just as I'm blending, I feel like it shears out in the same way. They feel almost identical, but actually I think the Haus Labs one is slightly thicker in texture, while the Persona is a little bit thinner and more lightweight. So that's just a quick comparison of those two. So circling back to my main question, did I need to buy these Haus Labs blushes? No, I don't think I did. I think the Kaja ones are extremely similar. I find the shades that they come in to be really similar, although I just want to mention Sephora only has 4 shades of the Kaja, but you can get more on their website and possibly Amazon. I'll do some digging and just link it all down below, but I think these Kaja ones are so similar. They're cheaper, they have more product in them, so that's an option. And if you are looking more at the drugstore, I think these Pixie ones are also incredibly similar. So those are the Haus Labs blushes. Moving on, we have Kosas. They just came out with these new baked blushes, which I was so excited about. I love a good baked blush. So let me show you what the packaging looks like up close, and I'll show you some swatches of all the shades. So these come in kind of chunky compacts, similar to their Cloud Set powder. So these come in 8 shades. They retail for $29, and they have 0.16 ounces of product. So I ended up getting the shade Euphoria, which it looks so beautiful. It's like a dusty pink. I also got Butterflies, which is a bright hot pink shade. And then the third one I got is Blissed, and this one is Peachy. So I got 2 more cool tone shades and then one that's a little warmer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you some swatches and then we'll actually try them on. All right, so from the top we have Blissed, Euphoria, and then Butterflies. So these all applied very pigmented, and they do have that slightly drier baked feel. They have a slight bit of luminosity, but not any glitter or sparkle or anything like that. So these look really gorgeous. All right, so let's go ahead and apply these. I'm gonna start with the shade Blissed, which is that beautiful light peachy shade. And I'm applying these with the Profusion round tapered powder brush. So far it's going on very sheer. Even though my brush seemed to pick up a lot of product, it's not translating to my face quite as much. All right, let's just pick up a little bit more. I mean, they definitely build up. So I think if you're looking for a super pigmented blush right off the bat, I don't know if you're gonna get that with these, but I much prefer a more buildable blush. I just think it's easier to work with. So this color is beautiful. I feel like it blended really nicely, very smoothly on my cheek. And it does have that little tiny bit of a sheen, but when I look in the mirror, I don't see glitter or sparkle. So next, let's try Euphoria. This is that beautiful dusty rosy shade. This one definitely seems to have a little bit more pigment right off the start. And it's an absolutely stunning color. Wow, I love this one. All right, so here we have Euphoria on this side. And then we have Blissed over here. So I think I'm just gonna remove this one and then apply Butterflies. All right, so here we go. Yeah, even though this one looks really bright in the pan, it's not translating that way on my skin at all. I definitely have to build this one up a little more. All right, so I am really liking this color too. I think one of the things that baked blushes have lacked, at least for me, are cool tone shades like this. So I love that Kosas is doing them. All right, so this is Butterflies over here. And then just compared with Euphoria on this side. Obviously, I think Butterflies looks a little bit cooler in tone. It's a little more purple, whereas this one is a little bit more dusty rose, but they're both so pretty. So when it comes to comparing these to other things that I already have, there are a few baked blush formulas that come to mind. The first one is Laura Geller. The second one is Essence, and then the third one is Milani. So Milani, I actually went through all the shades. I couldn't find any color matches for these at all. And also the Milani ones are very sparkly. They have a lot of kind of glitter particles in them or shimmer. They're almost like a highlighter versus a baked blush. So let me just give you a quick example. Here we have Milani's Coralina. So I'm just gonna swatch this one next to Blissed by Kosas. So hopefully you'll be able to tell on camera. This is Blissed from Kosas, and then this is Milani's Coralina. Coralina has very visible sparkles in it, whereas the Kosas one on top is just more of a sheen. It's like a luminosity, but it's not glittery. So I think that's the biggest difference. Not all of the Milani ones have this much glitter, but several of them do. And I just think even the ones that don't have a lot of glitter are still more luminous than the Kosas. So I don't feel like they're a great comparison other than they're another baked blush formula. Another baked blush formula that I absolutely love is Laura Geller. I feel like these are some of my absolute favorites. And the reason for that is because, let me just show you this one up close. This is Apricot Berry. So she's got a ton of different colors kind of all swirled into there. So when you mix it together, it just has this really gorgeous dimensional look on your cheeks. Whereas if you compare it to the Kosas blush in Euphoria, it looks like they basically used two shades, like one lighter, one deeper. So for me, the Kosas just don't have the depth and dimension that the Laura Geller ones do, even though they do look really nice and smooth on your cheeks. I just want to swatch these next to each other really fast, and hopefully you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so these are not the same color at all, but this is Euphoria from Kosas, and then this is Apricot Berry from Laura Geller. And you can see the Kosas one just looks a little bit flatter, like it's not quite as interesting. It doesn't have as much depth. The Laura Geller ones just tend to kind of make your cheeks pop a little bit more, and I don't know, they just seem to have a little bit more dimension. So that's kind of the difference between these two. And then the third baked blush that I have in my collection are the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blushes. And these, funny enough, remind me, I think, of the Kosas the most as far as just what they look like on your skin. And it's interesting because these really, when you look at them, they don't seem to have any dimension in the pan. They look like they're one color. For example, this is Goldie Cassis, which is one of my favorite shades in the Essence. And then next to Euphoria, it looks like it's gonna just be really flat and kind of boring. But when you actually look at them on your skin, so this is Euphoria, this is Goldie Cassis, they kind of look really similar to me. They have pretty much the same amount of sheen. I would say pretty equal overall in terms of how they look. Again, this isn't an exact color match, but I think they're pretty close. So did I really need to buy these Kosas blushes when I have all of these other baked formulas? I'm gonna actually surprise you here and say yes. And the reason isn't because of the formula, because I think you can get just as good a formula out of any of these. I love the Essence ones. The Laura Geller are fantastic. Those are probably my favorite as far as the formula goes. And I also think the Milani ones are beautiful too. But one thing that all of those brands are lacking that I touched on before is cool tones. I could not find anything in those other brands that matched Euphoria. I felt like Goldie Cassie's came pretty close, but out of all of the Essence ones, this is the only one that was really cool toned. And Laura Geller and Milani are also lacking the cool toned options. So you're not gonna find something like Butterflies in any of those brands. So do I regret buying the Bliss shade? Maybe. I feel like this peachy tone I can find in a lot of those other formulas. This one I definitely can't, and Euphoria is also gonna be kind of a tough one. So I actually am happy that I bought these. I've been wanting more cool toned baked blushes because those are the type of formula that I usually go for the most. I just think they look the smoothest on dry, more mature skin. But yeah, if I had to pick a favorite formula, I think the Laura Geller ones are superior to all of them. I think they are just so smooth and so silky compared to the others, but I definitely don't regret buying these because I think they're really nice. Yet another cream blush that I bought that just came out is the IT Cosmetics Sun Blush. So this only comes in a couple of colors. I got the shade Sunlit number 10. It comes in 5 shades altogether, and they're all a little bit on the warmer tone side because it's kind of supposed to be like a bronzer, like a blush bronzer hybrid. So these are $34 for 0.63 ounces, and it claims to be kind of a solid serum-like texture. So, oh yeah, this is really lightweight actually. All right, so I'll show you the color. This is Sunlit. So it's kind of a peachy nude shade. It's actually really pretty. So right away, this is actually reminding me of something else that I have in my collection that I just want to show you really quick. All right, so this is the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veil. These actually feel incredibly similar to the new IT Cosmetics one, so I'm just gonna swatch this next to it. This is Pinch Me Pink, so it also kind of looks like a little bit of a peachy color, but these have that same kind of pressed serum type of feel. They're super thin also, very lightweight. They feel kind of the same going on, but now that I'm swatching them together, I think the Mario is a little bit more sheer. So this is the Makeup by Mario up here, and then this is the IT Cosmetics and Sunlit. This one just had a lot of pigmentation in one swipe. This one, I feel like you would have to build it up to get the same level. But just in terms of like the way that it feels going on and that serum-like texture that's just so thin, that's what the IT Cosmetics is basically reminding me of. So I'm just going to quickly remove one of the blushes that I had from Kosas, and we'll try on the IT Cosmetics. All right, so I'm just gonna use also my BK Beauty 112 angled brush. I'm just gonna dip it right into the pot and just start applying this. Whoa, like you see how pigmented that is? The Makeup by Mario ones are definitely not like that. So I guess I was sort of wrong in my comparison. It really only feels the same as far as the texture goes, but this is performing actually a lot better than the Mario. And I'm thinking that because of the pigmentation, this might last a little bit longer too. The biggest complaint that I have with those Mario blushes is that they disappear off of my cheeks in about an hour. So I'm hoping that because of the pigmentation level that this has, I'm hoping that these might stick around a little bit longer. But that is beautiful. It took about 2 seconds to blend out on my cheek. It's not patchy. I'm really impressed with this. It looks super pretty. And other than the texture of the Makeup by Mario serum blush, I don't really have anything else in my collection that feels like this. I'm not saying there's nothing else out there, but I personally don't have anything else that feels quite like this and that goes on dewy. I have a lot of blushes in pots that go on more matte, that dry to that powdery finish. This one definitely has that more dewy feel. I'm not sure if it's gonna dry down completely. It might, but I wouldn't say that it's overly sticky. So I think it's very comfortable to wear. And overall, I do think this is something a little different, something that I don't already have. So I am not sorry I bought this. I'm actually glad. I do think this is super pretty. The next cream blush I wanted to talk about are from Lawless. These are also brand new. These are the Pinch My Cheeks Soft Blur cream blush. They did send these to me in PR. I think this is actually the only thing in this video that's PR. Everything else I did purchase myself, but I wanted to include these because they're another cream blush option. There's just so many out there and it's so hard to tell what's really worth buying. So these are actually supposed to blur your skin as you apply them. They come in 6 shades. They're $29 for 0.18 ounces. So they're about the same size as the House Labs. And the packaging that they come in is like a matte gold compact. Inside side you have a mirror and also the product itself. So this one is the shade Cherry Pie, which is described as a bright cherry pink. Next up we have Starburst, which is described as a soft peach. Then we have Angel, which is a nude rose. Rosebud is a dusty, cool rose. Then Valentine is a bright watermelon pink. And Gumdrop is a bright baby pink. So these all look really pretty. I love that they included some cool tone shades mixed with the warm. So I'll just go ahead and show you some quick swatches. These colors are absolutely stunning. I think they chose such great colors, especially heading into summer. And the texture is really, really interesting on these. They're super lightweight. They go on like nothing. And they do have that sort of soft blurring effect, almost like a soft blur lipstick formula. As soon as you put it on your skin, it just makes it look soft and diffused. So anyway, let's go ahead and just apply these to my cheeks. First, we have the shade Gumdrop, which is that lighter cool tone pink shade. Yeah, these actually do have a really kind of blurry appearance. They're drying down instantly to a powder, and they're also nice and buildable. So you can just add a little bit more, and it just builds upon itself so nicely. They're completely weightless. Like, this is a gorgeous color. I'm loving this so much. And when you touch it, like, it just has a little bit of a moussey feel. It's just that beautiful blurred look that's not going to enhance any texture on your face at all. So that is so nice. All right, on the other side, I'm gonna put the shade Valentine, which is also cool tone pink. And we'll see how this one goes. This is a little bit of a deeper color, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna need to build it up. Yeah, this is, all right. Hold on, I think I might have taken too much. Maybe these aren't as sheer as I thought they were. I probably should have waited until I used a color that wasn't the absolute lightest one before I made that determination. But anyway, loving the feel of these. So this is Valentine over here and Gumdrop, which is a lot lighter. Next up, we have the shade Starburst. This one is more of a peachy nude. And this one also is a little bit lighter, so I think this shade could be a little more buildable. It's not quite as like in your face as the Valentine one was. And guys, I'm just doing this quickly to show you the colors. I'm not being super precise. So anyway, this is Starburst. And next we have Angel, which is this gorgeous dusty rose. And this one also, it's not a super deep shade, so I think if you have a lighter skin tone, this one would also be a good pick along with Starburst and Gumdrop. I just can't get over how silky these are. They just glide on your skin so smoothly. All right, so again, we have Angel over here and then Starburst on this side. So the first one is Rosebud. This is that beautiful kind of dusty mauve-y shade. So that's that one. And then we have Cherry Pie, which is a bright red. I'm gonna go in very sparingly with this one. Hopefully it's not too bright. I just barely tapped my brush into the pan and actually it's looking really pretty. I'm just gonna add a tiny little bit more, just go slowly. This color is kind of like that just got in from the cold, kind of bright pop of cherry pink. So again, we have Cherry Pie over here. And then we have Rosebud on this side. So these blushes are really beautiful, but they do remind me of something that I have in my collection. So let me go get that. All right, guys. So these are the ColourPop cream blushes. These are almost identical. As soon as I started putting these on, I knew I was going to compare them to the ColourPop because they have that same soft, super lightweight, blurring kind of texture, that immediate cream to powder dry down, and just that really, really silky feel. And they come in so many gorgeous colors as well. They're only 12 bucks. So let me just quickly show you. I have the shade Cherry Blossom from ColourPop and Gumdrop from Lawless. So they're not the exact same shade, but they're both cool tone pinks. And I think ColourPop also has a really awesome shade range with these. So this is what they look like side by side. And I feel like they just apply exactly the same way. They really do. Like as I'm swatching them, they seem pretty much identical. So here we have Gumdrop from Lawless. Here we have Cherry Blossom from ColourPop. They both feel almost completely weightless, an instant powdery dry down, and that blurry look to your skin. So even though these were sent to me in PR and I didn't actually buy them, I think if I had bought them, I would be a little bit disappointed when I got home and realized that I also had these ColourPop ones that are pretty much identical. So if you also have the ColourPop, I wouldn't necessarily run right out to try this formula unless there's a color in the Lawless that they don't have in the ColourPop that you might be interested in. Because I do think this is a really beautiful formula. I love how smooth they look on your cheeks and lightweight. And I also love how they're not sticky, but at the same time, I feel like there is something incredibly similar to them already. So I just wanted to mention those quickly. Next up, I also got these new lip crayons from Ilia. So these are called the Lip Sketch Hydrating Crayon. So I got 3 shades, but they come in 12 shades altogether. They're $26 each, and I couldn't just pick one color, so I ended up getting 3 of them. So here's a look at the outer packaging. They're basically a wooden pencil. They're a little chunkier than like a normal lip liner, so they're more like a crayon style. And this is definitely something you're gonna have to sharpen because they don't twist up. So I'm just gonna quickly swatch these on my hand, and then I'll do lip swatches as well. So far, they're drawing on really nice and creamy. I hope they're not gonna be too drying because they are more of a matte formula. So the 3 colors that I got are Genre, Pink Door, and this one is Banquette. So they're all just kind of like your basic everyday neutral, like your lips but better type shades. So I'm gonna start out with Pink Door first. And honestly, like as I'm putting this on, it feels basically like I'm putting on a lip liner. It's a little bit dry. It has a little bit of like tug as you're putting it on. I think the biggest difference is just that it's a little bit larger, so you can cover your surface area of your lips a little bit faster than you would if you were drawing on a lip liner, let's say like the Makeup Forever lip liners. But it definitely has a similar feel. Like it's not the most moisturizing thing in the world. So anyway, this is the shade Pink Door. Next up, we have the shade Banquette. And then last but not least, we have the shade Genre. So like I said, formula-wise, these are not the most hydrating thing in the world. I would probably add a lip balm on top just to make sure that my lips felt comfortable throughout the day. But I do appreciate that you can use these to both line your lips and then fill them in a lot quicker than you would if you were just using a lip liner. I tend to use lip liner for lipstick pretty often, and this is kind of the same idea. It just makes it a little bit easier because it's a larger size. Now keep in mind, there are some other things I already have in my collection that are really similar. The first one is the Lip Bloom lipstick pencil from Moira. These are so similar. They feel almost identical. They have that soft matte finish, and I do apply lip balm on top of these as well, just because I have dry lips and I feel like I need a little bit more hydration. But just looking at the swatches, here we have the shade Pink Door from Ilia, and this is the shade Smitten from Moira. And I think they feel almost identical on your lips, really, really close. So again, I feel like this is something that you really don't need to spend the extra money on the high-end product unless, of course, they have certain shades that you can't find other places. Another version of these that I have in my collection are the Intense Matte Lip Pen from Catrice. So these are also just like a crayon style, and I'll just swatch this one really fast. I don't have a similar color, but I feel like these have a really similar texture as well. So this is the shade Mocha Me Happy from Catrice, and these are, I want to say, like $5. So they're really, really cheap. And I've had these for a while. To me, they feel very similar to the Ilia as well. I think when it comes right down to it, so much makeup is made in the same factories all over the world that you're definitely going to come across products that are very similar, whether it's across brands or even across price points. So I just realized I never even did my eyes in this entire video. So I'm just going to put on some eyeshadow really quickly. So this is supposed to be a dupe for the Circo Loco palette from Natasha Denona. I actually don't have that palette. And as far as just any other palettes that look like this in my collection, I don't really have anything. I don't have a lot of colorful eyeshadows in general. I have a lot of neutrals, and the colorful palettes I do have definitely don't look like this one. So I feel like this is a pretty unique color story for my collection. I'll just quickly show you some swatches. I think Alter Ego has such a nice formula for such a good price point. I also have a coupon code with them to save 10%. It's Gen 10 in case you're interested. But I really love the different mix of tones in here. They're super gorgeous. I don't know that I would necessarily spend Natasha Denona prices on this type of color story because, like I said, I just wouldn't wear it often enough to justify it. And I want to say Circo Loco was was one of the ones that's over $100. At Alter Ego's prices, it makes a lot more sense if you just want to play with color but you don't want to spend too much money. So I kind of want to match the color of my dress today. It's orange, but it's not like this color orange. It's more of like a pinky orange almost. So I might actually blend a couple shades together. So I think I'm going to try mixing papaya up here with Flora, and we'll see what that comes out like. I don't know, I'm just totally winging it here. I'm blending this out on the Rephr number 15 Max, and I mean, it's very pigmented. All right, I'm gonna keep this very simple. I'm just gonna put the shade Aura on my lid, which is a beautiful gray. It's actually almost like a blue gray, but I feel like it's kind of a neutral to balance out the bright pink and orange a little bit. Yeah, I think this just kind of tones everything down just slightly. All right, next I'm just gonna add a little mascara. This is the Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water mascara. It's a tubing formula. And here's the final look. I feel like the silver definitely tones down the sunset vibes that the pink and orange matte colors in my crease were giving. So it's just really simple. I know I probably could have gone much more creative with this palette, but I've been sitting here for a really long time and I'm starving, so I just wanted to do something really fast. Anyway, guys, I hope this video was helpful, and I hope that you were able to see that a lot of the new and hyped products that come out aren't really that much different from things that have been out for a while. And I know that it's so easy to get FOMO, but hopefully just bringing back some of these older products and showing them again in comparison will help you to avoid that a little bit. So I hope this made a difference. And I want to thank all of you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I truly appreciate it so much. And if you're new here, I hope you'll consider hitting the subscribe button before you go. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in my next one. Take care. Bye.